One evening, an island stood firm in the ocean. By morning, it was gone. No explosion, no warning sirens, just water where land used to be. How can an entire island disappear overnight? And what does that tell us about the world beneath our feet? Part 1. How it started. In the late summer of 1831, sailors crossing the warm waters south of Sicily noticed something strange. The sea was bubbling. Steam rose from the surface. The smell of sulfur filled the air. At first, they thought it was a shipwreck, or perhaps a sea monster, as old legends described. But what they were seeing was something far older and far more powerful. Beneath the Mediterranean Sea, the Earth was shifting. This region lies near the boundary of tectonic plates. The African plate slowly pushes against the Eurasian plate. The pressure builds quietly, deep below the water. Most of the time, we never notice it. But in July 1831, the pressure found a way out. Fishermen reported tremors under their boats. The sea turned dark with ash. Then one day the surface broke open. Lava and rock shot upward. Smoke climbed into the sky. Within days, a small piece of land began to rise above the water. An island was being born. It grew quickly. Ash and volcanic rock piled higher and higher. By early August, it stood more than 60 meters above sea level. It stretched nearly a kilometer across. For the first time, sailors could step onto fresh ground that had not existed a month earlier. The world took notice. This new island appeared in a strategic part of the Mediterranean. Trade routes passed nearby. Naval powers watched closely. The British called it Graham Island. The French named it Île Julia. The Kingdom of the Two Sicilies claimed it as Ferdinandea. Three names, one small island, and a growing political tension. But the real danger was not above the surface. It was below. Because the same force that created this island was already preparing to erase it. Part 2. The island. At first glance, the island seemed solid. Dark volcanic rock covered the ground. Steam vents hissed softly. The air felt warm, underfoot. British sailors landed and planted their flag. They believed they had claimed new territory for the empire. The French sent a team of scientists. They studied the soil and measured the coastline. They believed the island would remain. But this land was fragile. Unlike islands formed from hardened lava flows, this one was made mostly of loose volcanic ash and tephra. It had risen from a violent underwater eruption. The material was light and unstable. Beneath the waves, the volcano was still active. But above water, the eruption began to calm. And that was the problem. Without constant lava feeding it, the island had nothing to protect it from the sea. Waves began to attack the soft cliffs. Each tide carried pieces of it away. Storms struck in late autumn. The wind grew stronger. The Mediterranean, usually calm and blue, turned rough and grey. Slowly, almost quietly, the island began to shrink. Visitors returned weeks later and noticed the edges had collapsed. The once steep slopes were lower. The shoreline had moved inward. Nature was reclaiming its creation. By December 1831, only 5 months after it first appeared, the island was barely visible. Much of it had already been washed away. Then one night, a powerful storm passed through the region. The next morning, sailors searched for the dark shape on the horizon. There was nothing. The island had disappeared. Where land had stood, there was only open water. The flags were gone. The claims were meaningless. The maps had to be redrawn. But the story did not end there, because beneath the surface, the volcano still remained. Part 3. The consequences. News of the island's disappearance spread across Europe. Some laughed at the speed of it. Empires had argued over a piece of land that survived less than a year, but scientists were fascinated. The event became one of the clearest examples of how unstable our planet can be. It showed that land is not permanent. Even solid ground can be temporary. Over the years, the underwater volcano remained active. Fishermen avoided the area. Ships passed carefully. Then, in 1863, more activity was reported. The sea bubbled again. People feared the island might return. It almost did. The peak of the volcano rose close to the surface, but it stopped just a few meters below. The island remained hidden, like a ghost beneath the waves. In the 20th century, divers visited the site. They found the remains of the crater, about 8 meters under the surface. It was still there, silent, waiting. In 2000, as volcanic tremors increased once more, Italian authorities took an unusual step. Divers placed a marble plaque on the underwater summit. It declared the territory Italian, should the island ever rise again. Even now, the volcano is monitored, because one day it could return, and if it does, the same questions will rise with it. Who owns new land? How long does it truly belong to us? And can we ever control the forces that shape our world? The island that disappeared overnight became more than a curiosity. It became a reminder that borders are fragile, that maps are temporary, that nature moves on a timescale far beyond politics. Part 4, meaning. We often think of land as permanent, as solid, as safe. But deep below the surface, the Earth is always moving. An island can rise in a matter of weeks and vanish just as quickly. The story of this lost island is not only about geology, it is about humility, because the ground we stand on is not as stable as we believe, and somewhere beneath the calm blue waters of the Mediterranean, an island waits for its next breath.